Hi, my name is Darcy. I'm 20 years old. Did your boyfriend offer to make love without protection? After all, if this is true love, you need to trust each other even in such things. Watch the video to the end and find out how I had sex without a condom and how bad it turned out to be. One day, my friends invited me to a party to unwind. I worked hard and did not rest at all. Honestly, noisy parties never gave me joy, but I still decided to go. I didn't plan to meet any men, but one of them came up to me. Wilson was damn good looking, well dressed, and had the right body type. He asked me to dance, but I refused. Honestly, I didn't even know how to dance, and I didn't really want to embarrass all my friends. Then Wilson suggested that we had a drink or two at the bar. I refused again since I did not drink alcohol at all, whatsoever. He looked so ambiguously at me, like, I'm paying so much attention to you here and you're giving me the cold shoulder. Wilson was too pushy and egoistic, and I already regretted that I had responded to his attention. I was thinking about how to end our communication delicately, and I wished that I had installed the false call app on my smartphone. When you need to urgently move away, but there is no reason, you can order a call to your phone and go out as if you're talking to someone. You say, "Sorry, I have to take this. I'll just step out." How do you avoid unwanted communication? Share your experience in the comments. Then, suddenly he invited me to his place. Like, let's go for a walk and come to my place for a cup of tea. No way. I know what a cup of tea means. I said I wouldn't go anywhere because I've known him only for a couple of hours. Wilson's manner changed abruptly, and he started shouting that he was paying so much attention to me and he got nothing in return. This was followed by outright insults. I was confused and I didn't know what to do. The worst thing was that everyone around me didn't seem to care. Wilson had been drinking heavily and was no longer in control. Aiden appeared out of nowhere. Without a word, he took him by the scruff of the neck and led him somewhere. In this very moment, the guests of the party started paying attention to what was happening. No, there was no fight. Aiden just talked to him, and he didn't bother me anymore. I spent the rest of the evening with my protector. He was interesting to talk to. Time flew by, and shortly before the party ended, he asked me to slow dance. Remember my reluctance to be shamed? At that moment, I didn't even remember about it and gladly agreed. But we danced really well. What a pity that the song ended so quickly. But then Aiden asked for my number and I gave it to him. From the next day, we began to actively text and chat on the phone until 3 in the morning. We often walked in the evenings and even ran in the park. However, this was his favorite activity and I only pretended that I adored running. One night, he called and told me to come out. Aiden was unsure, his speech faltering, and he was a little nervous. He said that I stole his heart and that he couldn't think of anyone else, and then he put a locket on me in the shape of a stolen heart and asked me to date him. Of course I agreed. We spent most of our free time together and didn't get enough of it. No quarrels or misunderstandings, everything was just perfect. We did have an argument once though. One night we were watching a romantic movie and Aiden allowed himself to go too far. We kissed for a long time and then he threw me on the sofa and began to undress. I said it was too early and that I didn't want to do this, but he didn't hear me and went on. Then nothing happened, but I said that this behavior was unacceptable. And if he wanted to be with me, he had to listen to me and respect me. Aiden was a real sweetheart. He was so worried about what he had done that the next day he came with a huge bouquet of roses and a teddy bear. Of course, all misunderstandings were removed and forgotten forever. And yes, very soon after that, we had our first sex. We constantly talked about trusting each other, how important it was, and that we were just fine with it. It's true. I trusted Aiden in everything, but I didn't think the next thing would happen. During another romantic evening, when we were both in bed and it was getting close to the most interesting part, he wasn't wearing a condom. I asked him not to do it without protection. He said that if I believed him, I should believe in everything. Anyway, I gave in and agreed. What would you have done in my place? Interrupted the act and insisted? Tell me in the comments. Anyway, I wanted to have a serious conversation with Aiden about this as soon as possible. I called him the next day, and he said that he left to see relatives for a month. I got really mad. Why didn't he tell me earlier? Why did it happen like this yesterday? He also freaked out and hung up. I was left alone with my thoughts. Or maybe he didn't go anywhere, but just stupidly left me. Or maybe he initially wanted to sleep with me without a condom, and when he got his way, he disappeared. It turned out that I was wrong to trust him and fell for the stolen heart and all his nonsense. He called me first a couple of hours later and told me not to worry about anything. He really needed to leave, promised that he would return, and everything would be even better than before. I counted down the days until we met, texted every day, and everything was fine. Suddenly, 2 weeks later, I had an inexplicable pain in the lower abdomen. There was unhealthy discharge, and peeing became very uncomfortable and, frankly, painful. I went to a therapist, but he redirected me to a gynecologist. The doctor was a man, and it was very unpleasant. I was terribly shy. I couldn't relax. The doctor began to ask some strange questions. How often do you change partners? Whether you have had sexually transmitted diseases before, and so on. I flushed with indignation and said, "Who do you take me for?" He apologized, but still said something about the importance of being honest with the doctor. And I didn't lie to him. I considered such insinuations humiliating and rude. Can you imagine what I went through? The doctor examined me and took a swab. A day later, I got the result. Chlamydia! When I asked what it was and how I got it, he said that my partner infected me, and all thanks to unprotected sex. He prescribed a course of treatment and sent me away. Imagine sleeping with someone without a condom for the first time and getting into so much trouble. I immediately called Aiden in the hope of getting support, but instead he said that it was not his problem and that it was still unknown who infected whom and who I was simultaneously dating and sleeping with. How do you like that? What can I be accused of except that I was too trusting? I didn't expect such coldness and inhumanity. I hung up and didn't want to know him anymore. From that moment on, I didn't return his calls. I was angry, but I missed him. And I was genuinely glad to see him back. We hugged and chatted, forgetting about my illness. But not for long. He asked me suddenly if I was well now. I said yes. Do you think he apologized for anything? Not a bit of it. He suggested that we celebrate with sex. My patience ran out. It was as if the scales fell from my eyes and his true face was revealed. Yes, he did not care about me, my problems, and my health. Fuck him. That's how I told him off. He deserved that. You can forgive chlamydia, but indifference is worse. He spoke of trust, but how could you trust someone you can't rely on? He doesn't care about my health right now, but what happens next? And this despite the fact that he himself is to blame for my illness. At first, it was terribly lonely. There was no question of any new acquaintances. It wasn't easy to forget Aiden. Even though I'd blocked all of his contacts, deleted photos and videos and everything that reminded me of him. I've changed my mind so many times, and then I let it go. I decided that I would no longer be drawn to cheap romance and stolen hearts, as well as unprotected sex. I've read so much online, and medical articles, and unfortunate stories. It is better to always protect yourself just in case. How do you like the story? Give us a like. New videos are regularly released on the channel. One is more interesting than the other. Click on the bell icon. to avoid missing notifications and take care of your safety.